Have you ever had a conversation with someone that was just so rich and so full of life applicable nuggets and goodness that you felt like you wanted to be able to listen to it over and over and over again? Well, guess what? That's the podcast that I have for you today. My guest is Whitney Kroneberger. She is a life and business coach for Christian female entrepreneurs. And after a 10-year dream career at a nonprofit working in human resources talent acquisition, serving hiring managers and C-suite executives, she now specializes in coaching high-achieving women that are experiencing burnout, loneliness, and shame by teaching them how to create a life worth branding. Yes, please. She helps them develop rhythms of rest, implement boundaries, cover their identity and assignment, navigate transition, and find joy in the life that they've built while they're building and scaling their business. Let me just tell you, everything about this conversation is going to be note-taking worthy, so make sure you're in a place that you can or plan to go back and do it. Whitney's a Colorado native. She lives with her husband and 3 kiddos and a chocolate lab named Bruce. And I just can't wait to dive into this episode for you with Whitney. So let's get started. Truth time. When's the last time you raised your hands for a swift kick in the pants? Well, I'm the no-nonsense type friend who's going to tell you when you have food in your teeth. So let's get right to it. This is your infusion of sacred and secular, calling you higher into who God created you to be, how intimately faith applies to every part of your life, and how you can live that faith walk every single day in the marketplace. I've felt the tension of separation of church and state. I've been one of a few women at a table of men for decades, and I've stood my ground. Are you ready to do the same? These tools, resources, and interviews are meant to do just that. I'm Jan Touchberry, and it's time to share her faith at work. Friends, welcome back to another episode of Her Faith at Work. I'm so excited to bring my guest to you today, Whitney Kroneberger. Did I say that right?
You did. You got
Fantastic.
it. First time.
Fantastic. You never know with names that are a little unusual. My name is a little unusual. And as simple as Touchberry is, you would not believe how many different pronunciations there are.
I'm not surprised by that.
It's like, come on, people. But Whitney Kroneberger, Whitney and I met in a podcast group, and it was on Facebook. Shout out to Facebook for doing community correctly. Woohoo! It's one thing that I really appreciate about the Facebook platform. They know how to connect the human beings, and it's fantastic. And so I've really enjoyed this particular group that we're in and the connections that I've been able to make. Whitney is one of them, and I'm really excited to talk to her today because she is a woman after my own heart. She speaks to high performance Christian female entrepreneurs, and we are going to get into some content today that I think you are really going to love. Whitney, why don't you just take a sec and tell us about you and what you do?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jan. This is just a huge honor. Anytime I get to be a guest or even have guests on my own podcast, I feel like the Lord really uses those connections to not only bring about his glory, but just remind me that, yeah, we are made for community and for each other. And so I just appreciate this opportunity so much. Yeah, I am a life coach for Christian female entrepreneurs. I worked for 10 years at a nonprofit called Young Life. And what I loved about that opportunity was it really gave me a sense of character and how people can show up with good character in even stressful environments and create teams and communities to further the kingdom of God. So Young Life is an organization that reaches out to adolescents and helps them grow in their faith. And I worked at the headquarters for 10 years. And I helped hire and create teams, build up teams for the C-suite executives and directors. And so that was such a dream role. I loved working in human resources, but I kind of got that like little bit of a taste of entrepreneurship. And I was in the direct sales and network marketing world for 4 years. I built a 6-figure career with that. did the trips, got the car. It was incredible and I loved it. And what I realized after being in that role was what I loved most was coaching my team. And I didn't mind the sales and I loved the industry, but I really wanted to step out in obedience to what God was calling me into, which was life coaching.
Mm.
And so I started life coaching in 2019 and immediately fell in love with highly ambitious women, Christian women. What I was drawn to was just the woman that knew she was meant for more, that wanted to continue to develop the Holy Spirit inside of her and what he was calling her to. And so I started doing one-on-one coaching for a number of years. I've done group coaching, and it really is just an honor and a gift to have three dream roles, but I just know I'm fully aligned with what God has for me in this season, in this assignment. And so that is what I'm doing. I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado, with three kids, 11, 9, and 5.
Oh, you were in the
I've been
thick of
married.
it, girlfriend.
We're in the thick of it. It's so fun though. My husband and I have been married for 15 years, and my kids play hockey and lacrosse, so we're constantly in travel sports. But I just really love being able to show up and do this every single day. It's just such a huge blessing. So yeah,
That is
that's me.
fantastic. I'm so excited for this conversation because I think that that the listeners are really going to be able to put themselves in the center of what we're going to talk about today. One of the things that well, first of all, Whitney has a fantastic podcast that I've been
Oh,
binge listening to. It's the Original Female Entrepreneur.
yes, you got
That's right.
it.
Yeah. Okay. And the magic of editing, you just take that part out,
Right.
right? The
Yeah.
original female entrepreneur. And it's been going since 2021, 2022.
I think 2022, it's kind of on a pause right now, but yeah, it's been going for a while.
Okay. And I binged a lot of the episodes. Y'all know I'm a podcast junkie, love me a good podcast with some great content that I can use. And there were several themes that really stuck out to me that Whitney and I are going to talk about today. The first one is purpose versus assignment. And, in Christian world, you hear a lot about, oh, well, find your purpose. The Lord has a purpose. And that is true. But Whitney, I would really love to hear you talk to purpose versus assignment, especially where it is relevant to women in the business world.
Yeah. It's interesting. Even as you were saying that, I was like, man, find your purpose. Like it holds so much weight. Like it's kind of
Hmm.
this big, like, oh gosh, there's a lot to it. I first heard this term from a coach of mine, Leslie Burris, who talked about assignment. And it was something that I really gravitated towards, that really felt like it was the first time that I kind of understood the difference between sort of what we use in Christian world as calling,
Hmm.
and then what our purpose is when we're born. And so how I kind of differentiate the two is, what I believe is your purpose is what you were born with, the gifts, the skills, the abilities that you are just naturally gifted in, that come really easy to you, the things that you will do for your entire life, the way that you show up, the way you treat people. That is kind of the way that the Lord has designed you, I believe, is your purpose here on earth. It's obviously to bring disciples, make disciples, and crowd heaven. But when I think about purpose, it's kind of an umbrella of, this is who I am, this is my identity. When I think of assignment, it kind of narrows into what season you're in, what you are called to currently.
Hmm.
And the interesting thing is, I don't really believe purpose ever really changes, but assignments definitely do. And that kind of gives
Mm.
us a little bit of wiggle room
Yeah.
to move through different seasons and assignments with ease, knowing that what I'm walking through today may or may not last for the next 3 years, 10 years, 15 years. And that's okay. And it's a really good thing. And sometimes the assignment that I believe the Lord has us in is really specific to something he wants us to walk out right now,
Hmm.
but it's not what he's going to have us in forever. And so I just think the Lord is really kind in the way that he allows us to choose assignments in some ways. Like he always promises to walk with us. And because of that, I think there's a lot of comfort knowing that I can't really screw it up that bad. Like whatever, even if I'm not choosing the right assignment at the right time, he always promises to be close. And that really gives me a lot of ease moving through. Okay, even if I'm not doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm missing it for some reason, I'm not hearing him correctly, I'm not being obedient, he's still faithful and he still promises to walk with me. And man, I'm thankful for a good God that we serve.
Amen, sister. That's so good. So when you're coaching women and I mean, inevitably the question comes up, well, how do I know what my assignment is? What do you tell them? Are there some like steps that we can walk through to kind of understand what our assignment is? Or what do you say to that?
Yeah, ooh, that gets me so excited. I love when my clients ask me if they don't already know
Sure.
what they're supposed to be working on, which is actually funny that you mentioned that, Jen, because I think that we're always in a season of transition in some
Mm,
way or another, right? And so even the entrepreneurs that I'm working with and the women that I'm coaching, I still can see them saying, okay, I know what my assignment has been, but I also feel like I'm kind of on the edge of what's next. And that just gets me so excited because I'm like, yeah, we're always kind of on the edge of like, okay, well, what's the next thing that God has? And so when I hear that, I get excited because I get to ask, um, what what is it that brings you into joy? Like, what is it that is lighting you up that you feel like you keep getting drawn into? What is it that you can't get out of your head that you go to sleep thinking about that's constantly on your mind? The podcast that you're listening to, the people, like when you go have conversations with people, what is naturally coming out of you?
mm,
And I think part of that is kind of a brand in some way. It's like, what is it that I'm putting out into the world that is lighting me up? And I think that assignments can often be overlooked because they typically are things that come a little easier to us. And we may just think, oh, everybody knows how to do that. Everybody understands that concept. Of course, that's how everybody communicates with their spouse. And it's
yeah.
like, I really think that when you find something like that, it's important to pay really close attention because um, God has uniquely gifted us with his zone of genius. And when we can tap into it, it really unlocks his limitless possibilities with what he can do with using us as a vessel. So I just get excited when they ask, like, what's next? I start just asking a bunch of questions like,
Yeah.
if if time weren't an issue, if money weren't an issue, if you feel like, is there something that you feel like God is asking you to step into that feels hard or that feels uncomfortable? Let's pay attention to that.
That's really good. And you talked about zone of genius. One of my favorite things to say is that so many times we're so close to our own zone of genius that we just don't see it.
Yes.
And so a lot of times that's where coaching comes in because you have somebody looking in from the outside who is not as entrenched in all of the stuff that you're doing and that you put out into the world, and they can see things that you can't. And so y'all, if you don't have a coach, consider if this would be the time to get one.
That's right. I have so many coaches. If I know one thing about coaches in general, we all have lots and lots of coaches all the
Yeah.
time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about the juxtaposition that you have between the zone of genius versus the zone of excellence, because that
Mm,
as somebody who is a recovering perfectionist, zone of excellence, I totally identify with that.
yeah.
And so talk to me about what is that?
Yeah. Well, I would say the biggest, like the key differentiator between the two of those in my mind is just control.
Mm,
Because what I see is that when we are when we are so focused on doing things, I think there's a difference between doing things with excellence and doing things well, because it really is so important to do things with excellence. Like it, that we need people in the world. We need the ones on the Enneagram to show up and help us and lead us into excellence. It's really important. I think that where we get in trouble is it can be paralyzing. And when it gets paralyzing, it means that we are trying to take too much control. And so, where I see that differentiator in that zone of excellence versus zone of genius is, as a believer, my zone of genius is really asking God, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? What do you have your hand in? Because truly, He's not limited by algorithms or stats or anything earthly related, right? And so when we can have that direct connection, then there's nothing that can stop his movement. And usually the things that stop that momentum or stop us from being obedient or starting the new thing or creating or finishing up this thing or launching it into the world is really our own issues, our own fear, our own limitations, our own striving for excellence and perfectionism. And so I think that doing things in an excellent way is so important, and also making sure that we have the Holy Spirit living inside of us, that
Mhm.
we are cultivating women or our inner circle that are reminding us of our identity and holding us accountable.
Yeah.
And that we're also just checking in and saying, is this still what you're asking of me, Lord? Is this still the road? Is this still the way? And making sure that it's never about us, that it's truly about what the Lord is wanting to accomplish. I just say, like, there's nothing special about me. I just am really willing to let the Lord lead. And so when He says do this, I'm like, yeah, okay, God, like I'm game for whatever you've got, whatever you have planned. Sign me up, and because I know your way is way better than anything I can think of for myself.
Yeah, that's so good. It this conversation makes me think about another one of your podcasts that had the one of the best pictures that I have really ever heard. It will be ingrained in my brain every time I open my Maps app. Do you know which one I'm talking
Oh,
about?
right.
This
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
story,
I
the
remember sitting in the car.
story.
I know exactly where I was when it
Yes.
happened.
So why don't you just tell that story, because it was so good and I think it applies so well to what we're talking about right now.
Oh man, yes. You know, when those moments just absolutely take you back. I can
Yeah.
literally remember the road we're driving on. I've got my three kids in the back seat. I've got two in car seats. And my daughter is she's 11 now, but I try to talk to her quite a bit about driving and blinkers and lane changes and all the things, just because she's going to do it someday. It's good to, kind of
Sure.
engulf her in it. But so I always have my maps on my phone. It doesn't matter if I've been there 100 times, but there's some extra security just knowing what's coming up ahead for me. Like, I really enjoy knowing, am I going to be running into traffic and can I avoid it potentially? And so I just plug it in every time. So that way I just kind of know where I'm going. And we're in the car and I have my maps, and I think we're headed to hockey practice or lacrosse practice, something like that. I can't remember. And so my daughter sees that in Google, I think it's Google Maps, is a little blue line
Mhm.
on the way to where you're headed. And so she's like, Mom, are we still on the blue line? I said, yeah, there's a triangle, we're on the blue line. And I said, but you know what the cool thing is whenever you turn or make an error or do a U-turn or something like that, the maps will just kind of follow you and reroute you, and you still get to the same place no matter which way you go, which is kind of crazy because you're never really lost then. Like, you're always on the path somehow. And in that moment I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, thank you so much for knowing that there's literally nothing that I can do to walk outside or get off the path of grace and forgiveness,
Mm.
because I'm always, no matter what I choose, no matter what direction, what vocation, what job I have, I always know that you're with me, and I always know that my destination is heaven, and that I am already a citizen. And so when I think about my place and my being a daughter of the Most High God, I think I'm so grateful that that role is not compromised by decisions that I make here on earth. And
Mhm.
I'm saved by that grace and choosing to love Him and serve Him every day. And so it just brings me peace to know that, like, I can't possibly screw this up that
Yeah.
bad. Like,
Hallelujah.
he's got me. Hallelujah. Like, it's good. It's a good thing, because I'd be the one to do it if it was.
Uh-huh. Yes. Same, same, same. So you said something before that I think is such a beautiful picture of what you just described. You said when we have that direct connection, there's nothing that can stop God's movement.
Yeah.
And I think that this picture of the map and your assignment can also be the destination.
Yeah.
And when you're directly connected,
Yeah.
you're not gonna stop his movement if you're staying connected. And I don't know which map app it is. I have so many on my phone, but there's
Right.
there's one in particular that'll pop up periodically and say, shorter route. Do you wanna take this way? And so I think that goes right back to that direct connection that sometimes God will say, "Hey, you're on this road, but if you come with me here,
Yeah.
we're
Oh,
gonna
that's
do something
good.
really great together,
That's
and it's
good.
gonna take you a less time and less effort."
Oh, yeah.
And so I think just really being in tune to his voice, again, that direct
Yes.
connection, for what your purpose and what your assignment is so powerful. So I loved that picture. So thank you so
Oh,
much for
it's
sharing
so
that.
good.
I'll never
So
open
good,
my
Jen.
map app and look at it the same, not ever.
Oh, that's good. I love it. I
It's gonna
love
be
it.
so great. I know that working with women, you probably have to overcome some negative self-talk. It
Yeah.
has come up in probably at least half of the episodes that I've done on my podcast in some way, shape, or form. Negative self-talk, doubting, what fill in the
Yeah.
blank, whatever.
Yeah.
And one of your episodes, I went into the Wayback Machine and went, I think it's like
You did.
episode
I'm
like 13 or something
oh
like that.
man.
And it was called ear hustling. And
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for good marketing. And so just the title ear hustling, I'm like, oh, I gotta listen to this one. And so talk to us about ear hustling
Yeah.
because people are like, ear hustling, what the heck is that? But as soon
Yeah.
as she starts describing it, you're gonna start shaking your head and going, yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, Jan, this is so funny. I was on a call with a client and oh man, I just loved working with her. She took calls like when 911 dispatch. She like rerouted the call. So really, really difficult, very strenuous, very stressful job
Yeah.
that she had. And it was just an honor and a privilege to just get to be with her for our time together. And uh, I remember on one of our calls, this is not my term, it was hers for sure, but on one of my calls, she had said, like I had my headphones off to the side for a second and I was ear hustling and I heard someone else heard it and I was like, whoa, 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 stop. What? I've never heard that term before. And she was like, like you're hustling. And I just kind of laughed. I was like, I've never heard that. And she was basically saying like when you're listening to a conversation that may not be yours, or you're trying to listen to something that wasn't meant for you, a conversation that just isn't designed for you. And gosh, I feel like we do that. You're so right when you started that question that we do that as women so often that some of the ways that we talk to ourselves is because it comes from a place of comparison where we're looking at other women or what others are doing and we're saying uh what shouldn't I be doing that? What about me?
Uh-huh.
Oh gosh, I'm missing something. There's something wrong with me. Or we're stuck in this shame cycle and I think that of course age has helped with that a lot. I was talking to a friend the other day. I was like, thank goodness we're not in our 20s and I'm almost out of my 30s now. And I'm like, I just feel like the Lord does so much in those years to help um allow us to love who we are becoming if we're
Mm,
intentional with who we're becoming. And I just think it's such a gift because often when I was younger, I just constantly got stuck in this trap of, okay, well, what are they doing and what does that mean about me?
yeah.
And at this point in my life, I look and I think, okay, what are they doing? How can I encourage? How can I cheerlead? Instead of what is it meaning about me? Their success has nothing to do with what the Lord is doing in my own life. And when I can make that distinction and pull that apart, it means I get to clap for everybody
Yeah.
because there's enough room and God has enough in him, enough creativity and inspiration to go around. And it's when we have a belief that there's not enough room that we get into that ear hustling and think, I got to go and do so. I got to hurry up. I'm behind. I've got someone
Mhm.
else is doing there's too many coaches. There's too many network marketers. Like when we have the belief that it's a saturated market, God's like, well, then where's the room for miracles? Because I'm sovereign. And so when you put your faith and love and trust in me, there's nothing that I cannot accomplish through you. There are no seas that I can't part and make ways for you. And so it just, I come back and I'm reminded that what the Lord has for me in my life and my journey is good. And what he
Mm,
has for you in your journey is really good. And when we can join together and instead of comparison, if we can join together and clap for one another and push each other forward and mention each other's names in rooms
yeah.
and like you have to go listen to Jan's podcast. I mean, like those kinds of things, I think the Lord is like, that's what I'm talking about. Like,
Yes.
thank you for doing that for one another. It's so good. It's so good.
Let me tell you, that's something that's a lesson that I've learned over the last almost 2-year period of time because I've always said that I don't really like women. I'm like,
Mm,
no, I'm like all my friends growing up and even into adulthood, most of them were men because I just can't stand the female drama I mean,
yeah.
come
Yeah,
on,
you're right.
ladies,
Preach it. Yep,
let's
that's
talk
right.
about it.
We can be
And it
awful.
yeah, we can be awful to each other. We really can
Yeah.
be, and it's horrible. And I just had no time for that. And it wasn't until I joined a high-level mastermind um, that I stepped into a room full of women who did exactly what you were talking about. They mentioned each other's names in rooms. They invited other women to the table,
Whoa.
and there was so much less of the comparison and the, oh, maybe I should be doing her thing, and all of that. It the room shifts when you are surrounded by women who think differently and
That's
call
right.
you higher.
That's right.
And I just think it's so important to find a community like that. And we're going to talk
Yeah.
about Whitney's Whitney's community in a minute. But before we go there, one last thing that I love that I would really like you to explore for all of the women out there, self included, who take a look in the mirror and say, I just need a minute. I'm tired
Mhm. Yeah.
and I could need a break. And you talk about something called soul rest.
Yeah.
And I read that phrase and I went, okay, I need that
Yeah.
soul rest. So talk to us about soul rest and how you find that, how
Yeah.
you know when you've hit that space because I mean, we can take a break from social media, but I don't think that that's soul rest. That's not it may be a first step, but it's not going to get us to where our soul is being restored.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so good. So good. It is definitely something that when I think about purpose, the Lord created me I identify as a 7 on the Enneagram, I say, because some people like it, don't like it. So I joke and say identify, but sevens are really good at resting most of the time. Like we are great at just sitting back and enjoying and finding the joy in life. And so it's something that I'm really passionate about, especially because I coach a lot of really highly ambitious and driven women. And so when I
I'm an
started to see
8, so
things,
that's not me.
yeah, totally. Totally. It's so good. And we all have that drive in us. It just kind of looks different. But as I started to coach women, I started to see these themes where we start to find our worth in our work and what we're doing rather than who we are. And what that leads to is burnout. And so I was like, oh man, I see this over and over again. What's the anecdote to that? Because there's no way to sleep enough to get rid of burnout. And
Yeah.
there's no way to get off social media long enough where you don't feel misunderstood anymore. And when you get to that point, There's literally nothing you can do for your physical body that will allow you to feel true rest. And so
Mm.
I started to ask myself, I started to ask the Lord, I asked others, what is it? What does real rest mean? And I have one of my best friends in the entire world. She's a functional medicine practitioner. And she introduced me to John Mark Comer's book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, which I talk about
Yes.
all the time, right?
I've
It's
read
so
it
good.
twice.
Twice. Oh my gosh, it's so great. And
So good.
when I read that, what really stuck with me was that what he talks about, as you know, in that book, is that love, joy, and peace are not compatible with hurry.
Mhm.
And so, in order to find rest for our souls, what that actually means is a pause in our pace. And it means that we have to be intentionally getting away with the Lord. And one other thing that John Mark talks about in that book is he talks about Jesus showing us that he is, John 3:16 talks about way that I'm the way, the truth, and life, right? And he says in that we know what the life is and we know what the truth is, but we often miss the way that Jesus lived his life. And
Yeah.
we sometimes miss how to apprentice under him. And so, what I see in the life of Jesus, and watching The Chosen too has been so good, right? But what I see is that he could have been so much more efficient in his time in my own earthly tiny little brain, could
Right.
have been so much more efficient in his time on earth by healing more people and
Mhm.
ministering to more disciples and staying on earth longer. Like that could have been a possibility. And yet half of his time here on earth was spent away with the Father.
Mhm.
And so when I think about practicing the way of Jesus and apprenticing under him, what that looks like to me is intentionally scheduling time for me to look forward to.
Mm.
And what that also looks like is burnout is hard to get away from, and being tired is hard to avoid. And when we have things that we have scheduled and thought about ahead of time, it is easier when we get tired to know, okay, I've got something coming up. And so I created this soul rest menu. But really what it is just three different categories. Um, and it really is appetizers, dinner, dessert. And it's thinking out ahead of what's coming up for me and how do I need to be intentionally pulling away from my work, pulling back, being intentional with those that love me and that I love, and having things that I'm excited about so that when I hit a place where I'm tired or when I need a reset, then
Mm.
the Lord shows up and reignites that inspiration and creativity. And so in that appetizer section are just free things that you can do without a lot of planning. It could be a walk, it could be a quick getaway with a friend to go to dinner, it could be watching a movie, something like that, where you can just kind of pull away. For me, all of my brilliant ideas that the Lord gives me are always in the shower. I don't know why. And so I consider that a soul rest activity,
Yeah.
which is funny. I don't enjoy showers very often because I just don't like it. So much work, you know? But I feel like the Lord is like, this is where I meet you, and this is a place of rest for you. So
Mm.
so do this and be with me.
Mhm.
And then dinner is really things that you kind of have to plan out a little bit more. It could be, like a weekly date night, a 24 hours in a solo retreat once a month. It could be a number of things. I love trips, so that's mine are all kind of travel focused. And then your dessert are things that you're really planning out. That's like your week-long vacation.
Mm.
Your It could be like buying tickets to the front row seat of a movie or a concert or something like that. Big ticket items, a 40th birthday in Greece with all of your foxhole friends, which is what I'm doing. Um,
Yes.
but I think that the key to uncovering soul rest is to figure out how you are able to be still, and where the
Mm.
voices get quieter, and where you feel like you can connect with the Father at a deeper level. What gets you to that point? And
Mm.
then go ahead and look at your calendar coming up and start putting those in, whether you think you're going to need them or not.
Mm.
And do that with people that you love, and know yourself well enough to know what's going to give you that rest. And I think when we when we're good at taking those breaks,
Mhm.
that's really what brings us into communion. And it is a little by little, every day, every week, every month,
Yeah,
communion with the Lord, intentional communion with Him.
for sure. That, wow, soul rest menu, that's really cool. Is that something that you have that is somewhere that
Yeah,
other people can
it's a
access it?
freebie. I will
Heck yes,
send you a link
girl.
so you can put it in show notes. We'll put it in there. It's good. I have a
Fantastic. I
huge, like,
love that.
it's a whole guide to soul rest. It's free, and it talks about uncovering your identity and how to create boundaries and how to slow your pace and how to find soul rest. It's just kind of this guide that I created to aid in that, just kind of tangible things you can be doing, and that soul care menu's in there. So I'll get you a
That's
link to it.
amazing. That would be
Yeah.
fantastic. So that'll be in the show notes. Look for that for sure. And then circling back to community and getting around the table and in the room with women who lift you up and push you forward and pull you higher. Tell us about the well.
Yes. Well, I've got two. So the well is something that the Lord was really on me about for a long time, that I had a lot of Jonah moments with, where I was like,
Mm.
nope, there's not enough of an audience. I was like, I don't want to do it, Lord. And he was like, you're going to, it's so good. So the Well is a high level mastermind for 6 and 7 figure earning Christian female entrepreneurs. And I created that container to be a place of service to women that are in positions of leadership or authority, or maybe just have a lot of eyes on them. They may be in the public eye more often. And there's just a different conversation that happens among women at that level. And even whether it's PR, legal, whether it's like, they've learned how to make money. Making money is no longer really the issue. It's really like, okay, well, what have I sacrificed to get here? And now my marriage is falling apart, and I really am in need of good, close relationships with women. And so I just felt like the Lord was like, I need you to facilitate a time where I can show up in these women and show them you're not alone. It's okay to be vulnerable. This is a safe place, and the Holy Spirit can work through those women. And so that the Well was created for that reason. It's a 6 month group coaching mastermind. We have a retreat on the end of it that's 3 days in Colorado Springs. That's all expensive paid. And it really is truly such a beautiful community of high achieving women. So that is the Well. But I also recognize that on your way to 6 and 7 figures, there are also these women that need coaching too. Everybody deserves to have a
Yeah.
coach. And so I started a group coaching program called The Haven for just anyone, any women that are looking, whether you have a business or not, that are looking for coaching and community. And so The Haven is $49 a month, and it's just good coaching every week, a good community, lots of accountability, all Jesus. And so I love kind of gathering the women at the table. So those are
Yeah.
two ways that I have been able to do that.
That's fantastic. We will link both of those in the show notes so you guys can go and explore. Maybe this is the time for you to step into one of those. And so you can look that. And of course, we'll list all the ways that you can find Whitney. But Whitney, tell us your preferred way to connect with people.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to check Instagram probably more than anything. I
Okay.
love connecting in my DMs with people. So if you find, it's just Whitney Kroneberger on Instagram. So if you find me there, send me a message. My favorite thing is the DMs and getting to know people back there. So that's a great way.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and for pouring into this audience. I know that I know I'm going to go back and listen to it several times probably to get all of the meat out of it. And if you were driving today, I suggest that maybe you go back and listen to it again when you can grab a pen and piece of paper.
Oh man, thank you, Jan.
So
Thank you so much for your obedience and what you do, and bringing women like me on. I'm so grateful for you too. This has been really a true gift today for sure.
thanks for joining me for another episode of Her Faith at Work. If the Lord put someone on your heart that you think needs to hear this message today, will you just smash that share button? And if you haven't already followed the show, I would love for you to do that. super extra points if you hop over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That helps the algorithm pick us up and drop us right in the AirPods of people that need to hear what the Lord is saying to them today. I hope you'll come back for the next episode of Her Faith at Work. The podcast comes out every Wednesday. And if you look down in the show notes, I've even got a couple of free downloads for you that I think you will really enjoy. With that, have a great week. See you next time.